We have a 16-inch jointer. You can flatten any board up to 16 inches wide, flatten it, edge it. From here, I come over to the planer. This one is a good workhorse. It's 5 horsepower. It's 20 inches wide, as you can see, and it can take a board up to 6 inches in thickness. You will see over here, all of the wood shavings are pulled up. They go all the way over. They come over to behind these doors, and you will see that I have 2 bags over here that my shavings are collected. Try to keep the dust down. Next to it, your standard drill press. Suits my needs to drill out holes, as you can see here, for doing my European hinges. It's almost standard in all applications today. Next to it, we have a little dolly that can lift cabinets up, so when you're doing upper cabinets, you can put them on the platform. There's a crank handle down below, and you can crank the cabinets on here all the way up to a point and then screw them to the wall. Over here is your basic office. You have your telephone. There's internet connections. And obviously my drawers here. And more drawers over here for files. Against this wall, I have my longer clamps. We have 39 inches. We have 52 inches. We have 72 inches. And we have 96 inches. That takes care of a lot of my clamping needs. This here rolling dolly is what I place doors on, individual racks, so that when I'm done spraying a door, they dry on the rack. So as you can see, I can put a door here, here, and here, one over here, here, and here on both sides. Over here, I happen to have the other set of clamps. I'll get my dollies or rolling carts out of the way. But I've got my 2-foot clamps on this side. I have 35 of those. And I have on this side 1-foot clamps. And I've got 35 of those. These are the Bessie clamps that you have the parallel jaw. They work quite nicely. Behind this box, I happen to have 2 exhaust fans. I happen to use this line here, a little dust. I use this line here for spraying. So ordinarily, I come over to an area in here, I spray my cabinets, I spray my doors. With those fans going, we exhaust our fumes outdoors. When that is not running, I do all my bench work right here. 4 feet by 8 feet, nice solid bench. I keep my air tools underneath, a corrugator, nail gun, some staple guns, sander, another sander. You've got your drill, screw gun. You've got some portable drills there. Over here you have, next to the fan, you have where my batteries are all plugged in, ready to go, so I always have power. Over here, we happen to have a set of routers. As you can see, some of them are dedicated for certain operations so that I do not have to change over from one setting to another. We have down here, we have jointers for your biscuits. Again, different setups required different circumstances. You have a belt sander here and here. And then you have over here, you have a chop saw. That I square edge work with. Over here I have a router that I do some splines with. So when I join two boards together, I can spline it together with a biscuit. And underneath I have a jig here and here for when I do beading. Over, as we saw, all the routers, I have a host of router bits. There probably is 100 bits in there. We have here a V router bit. Purpose of the V router bit is I take a router and it fits and rubs up against the sides. And as you can see here, it runs in that groove. And the purpose of that is this bead, which the router runs through, creates a 45-degree angle. And what happens is we have an opposing board coming in and sitting against it. So it's a jig already set up. Makes things a lot easier for me. Down below we have a nail gun. It's a pneumatic nail gun. Actually, it's a battery-operated nail gun. The pneumatics were under the bench. Here we have a 20-inch bandsaw. Your range of cut is about 6 inches in height. I've got a table here that, again, with a leg, helps assist when I cut larger items. We have here, which works quite handy, sawhorses. If I want to make it to this level, all I have to do is crank it up or crank it down. Whoops. I have 4 sliding dollies or rolling dollies. Purpose of the dollies is obviously to make it easy to move materials. I keep all my lumber up here in the racks. Everything that is in the rack comes out. It comes from the rack, comes over to the saw. I cut it to size. Then I take that piece with few steps as possible and I put it on a cart. I'll load the cart up, then I will go to the jointer, then to the planer, back to the joiner again, and then I come over to the table saw. We have a 5 horsepower, 3-phase table saw. We have the nice Biesmeyer fence, which opens up to 52 inches. And as you can see, I've got a nice outfeed table, and it's plenty wide enough so if I cut a sheet of 4 feet by 8 foot plywood, I have something that it rests on. Now what I have is a jig here to square things off. So I put it in the groove based upon what's underneath there. It rests on there in the groove, and I slide it back and forth. So I could cut and square pieces of material, solid or plywood. Makes it quite convenient. Next to it, we have a shaper. It's an 1¼ inch spindle. Again, I have a series of jigs that hook onto the fence so that I can run my materials up close to the cutters. Next to it, I have a 2-speed feeder, of which when I am running materials, well, as you can see, I can put it in place and it will push the materials for you. Over here, we have a series of blades. We have cutters. In the drawers, I have some cutters, some that have been ground to shapes, others which have not been ground to shape. Same thing, just different widths of blades. The blades get cut. Now the blades, if you'd come over here, get cut on the grinder. And I have an assortment of wheels. Those wheels, depending on its shape, will shape the cutters or the steel to become the cutters. Now, one of my last operations, I have a 16-inch sander here. Again, my table has an infeed and an outfeed table. Just makes it easier for boards that are longer than, obviously, the shorter ones. As you can see with the wood rack, we have the wood rack not only here, but I put scrap down here, and below the scrap I have all of my blankets, my packing blankets, for when I have to move a job. Next to it, down in the pit, is an 80-gallon compressor, air compressor. Over here next to the chop saw, we have a nice long table, of which to this point is 9 feet. So if you're cutting a long board, you have something to rest it on. Now if we go down below, we have over next to the shaper, we have a mortise machine. I have different size cutters. This being 1/4 inch, this happens to be 1/2 inch, and we go all the way up to 3/4 inch. That's for making a door, making the mortises. I showed you the board before with the bead on it. Well, this is a router that has the table already set up that I can run through it and make the bead. Again, it's a router that's dedicated for one process, and that is just beading. I have down below sheet stock that I can lean up on edge, and this cabinet here ordinarily is filled with dollies, rolling dollies. They're only about 2 feet wide, and I have probably 2 dozen of them. Above us is yet another rack. So when I'm spraying materials, such as crown molding, I have a place that I can store materials as they are drying. So as you can see, I'm standing here and I do not hit my head, so they're out of the way. Very convenient. Over here, as you can see, I've got a nice wide door. It's about 12 feet in width. The height is at least 10 feet. Very convenient to load my cabinets from this, basically this table, to my pickup truck. I open up the gate, I back up to the floor, and I roll my whatever's on a cart, and I put it on my truck, slide it right on. When I'm done, simple.